Hi, I'm John Paul, and a really warm welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm delighted to be continuing in a series of conversations about bisexuality. Even more delighted to have a guest on. His name is Mark Cusack. Just to say a bit about Mark from his bio, he's an author, lecturer, content creator, and coach who specializes in supporting people with complex, fluid, or undefined orientation and gender. Mark runs the support site at Not Defining, where he posts educational content about the diversity of the sexuality and gender spectrums, as well as experiences from his own life as a bi plus asexual fluid person. Mark lives in Liverpool, where he delivers talks, teaches trainee psychotherapists, and writes articles on LGBTQ plus issues. He was formerly LGBTQ plus representative for the UK Civil Service. His hometown is Kilmarnock in Scotland, and he's a proud member of the autistic community. Also, to add, I mean, you said content creator, but has a YouTube channel, and I'm going to put links to all those things and Mark's social media below this video. And he's also just published a book called Fluid, which hopefully we're going to get to talk about as well. Mark, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John Paul. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for talking about sexuality, bisexuality on your channel and things. It's so great to have this conversation with you. And hello, viewers.
I'm looking forward to it. And if anybody, of course, wants to comment below, as ever, please do that. Say the focus of our conversation, some suggestions as far as 5 things that every bisexual person or person who has a bisexual identity should or ought to know. Mark has very kindly come up with a number of suggestions, so we're going to run through those. I just wonder, before we do that, Mark, I mean, I've read your bio. Could you say a bit about yourself and also perhaps mention the book as well, as it's such an exciting thing happening for you now, I imagine?
Well, thank you so much. Basically, I grew up being someone who had different types of attractions. I didn't really feel that I was attracted to just women or just men. And I didn't feel that I was just masculine or just feminine. And so I kind of struggled with that a lot because when I was growing up, there really was only 2 things you could be. You could be straight or gay. And so I kind of lived this life of being in the middle somewhere. And I struggled with it. I struggled with it a lot. And there was no real information about it. There were no real role models. No one really talked about it. And so then as I grew up, I just kind of thought to myself, well, why don't I be the person to talk about it? And so I started my channel, Not Defining, which I thought no one would listen to because it was all just my weird ramblings in my head. But apparently lots of people listen to it. And so we make educational content. I talk about my life experiences as a bi person, as a kind of someone who's on the fluid, asexual, bisexual spectrum. And then most recently, I was so pleased to publish a book. So it's called Fluid, and it's really the first ever accessible guide for anyone who has like different shifting, changing feelings towards their kind of sexuality. We talk about gender and sex and love and relationships and identity and everything else. It's just a pleasure to talk about it because we need to talk about it.
You do coaching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of started off making social media content and I was talking about my experiences. And no sooner did I started that, then people started DMing me. They started writing to me and saying, "Oh, Mark, thank you for sharing this. I'm going through this too." And I would say, "Oh, well, what's that like for you and what's going on?" And they would talk to me. And suddenly my inbox was full of people just coming to me talk because there's so few people that the public can kind of come to and actually talk about these precise issues. And so very quickly, I realized that I couldn't talk to everyone. I was just doing it free off my own steam, and I worked full time at the time. And so I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll create a little Patreon mentoring page, so people pay a couple of pounds, just a nominal fee, and then that meant that I could chat with people. So I chatted. I was like a mentor, you know. And so through hundreds, maybe thousands of conversations, I just built all of this kind of experience and knowledge. And then my mentoring community asked me, you know, can I have a call with you? I'd love to speak with you. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm qualified to do that. And so I trained in coaching. I got certified and accredited as a coach. And so then I was able to start speaking with people. So I now do that as my living, and it's really a wonderful thing. And it's nice because you can have therapy, for example, and you can also have coaching. It just kind of provides something a little bit more focused, a little bit more kind of specialized for people who just need to maybe come and focus on like one thing or something very specialized with someone who maybe gets it in a way that other people don't.
You did mention, I suppose, people coming through. One of the points I know is talking about mental health issues and challenges in terms of people with a bisexual identity. But certainly, I think what's happened does speak to that thing about community that people are looking for, completely understandably, because it would be something that I would get asked quite often is where are people, I suppose, where is a community? People looking for that in various contexts, and YouTube and obviously your channel, and probably to a lesser degree mine, has provides some sort of community, even if it's just commenting below a video, isn't it? It's people can read other people's comments, people like other people's comments. So yeah, but should we start by looking at the point? The first one you said is it's way more common than you think.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being someone who is visible. You know, places like YouTube is where so many people come to ask those questions, to get that information. And if we have people, therapists, coaches, counselors who are putting that out, then it shows people, hey, I get it. And then we make it safe for people to come. So I'm so delighted to be, doing the same thing with you. And yeah, definitely, I think if there was one thing I wish I knew when I was younger, and if there's one thing I just wish that people in general could know, whether you are bi or whether you're not bi, is it is so, so common. It's like you just pull back this curtain and suddenly you realize the reality, which is that so many people are on the bi spectrum. I think what often happens is that when we state our sexuality on like an official form or a census or something, they often do a tick box. So they say, are you gay, straight, bisexual, other, whatever? And so many people don't actually have the identity of bi. They're not like me and they have the bi pride colors all around their house, all the rest of it, card carrying bisexual. And so what that means is that people believe there's like this small niche identity that we call bi, and it's not really that many people. And it couldn't be further from the truth. What they did at one point was that the organization YouGov, which is the most reputable social statistical organization maybe in the world, they do like the government election polls and stuff like that. So it's as accurate as you can possibly get. They did a scale instead of a tick box, and they got people to plot where their kind of attractions were on a scale of 1 to 6, from being 100% hetero to 100% homosexual. And what they found was that 1 in 4, that's a quarter of all people in the UK, and they did it in the US as well and got similar statistics. A quarter of all people are not heterosexual, and most of them are on the bi spectrum. 25%, that's like 1 in 4 people that you see on the street or in your family or in your workplace. And I just think that's absolutely mind-blowing. And this is not even testing people kind of in a scientific way, like they'll test like pupil dilation or like groinal response, in like an actual, this is what people state that they are, that them choosing to say, I am this. And so while so many people are not 100% heterosexual, actually most of them don't identify as gay. They identify somewhere in between. And then when they did the statistics on 18 to 25-year-olds, they found that one in two, it's like 50% of people do not identify as 100% straight. But then the numbers of gay people, exclusively homosexual, didn't really rise that much. And so you have this humongous section of the population who freely admit that they have some form of attractions on the bi spectrum, but they wouldn't identify as bi. So what I always want people to know is that if you are one of those people, you have attractions to men and women or different genders, or there's something maybe a little bit kind of, well, I'm mostly this, but not that, but or maybe there's a little feeling here or there. You are so normal. You are actually fully normal. And you don't need to identify as anything. You don't need to make it your whole life. You don't need to have pride flags or any, don't need any of that. But please don't think that you're weird or broken or wrong or different because you're not.
I wonder about some of the reasons for there being so many people, but such a lack of visibility in some ways. And I wonder, it's interesting what you were saying about card carrying, and I see your flag, and I see your flag here and then queer here. And there we go.
Did you notice I was LGBT?
But it's, I mean, there are different sorts of personalities, I suppose, in terms of people and what their journey is going to be like. And one of the things that I saw about bisexual people, people with a bisexual identity, which was where my video started actually, was contributing to an article for the Metro about how to connect with a bisexual identity within, in inverted commas, a straight relationship, a sort of straight facing relationship. And the statistics that come with that are that the majority of people who would identify as bisexual are in mixed orientation, and most of them have not told anyone, or they may only have told one person. And just to say on that, and I would be interested in what you say, some people have said to me, if you're in a mixed orientation relationship, you're in love with somebody, there's a sexual relationship, why bother? But I think there are important reasons. Everybody's journey is their own, of course. But I do think there are important reasons to connect with that, whether it's just in relationship with self, knowing what it means to you, and or somehow, somewhere in relationship with others. I suspect a lot of people come through on YouTube just because there is that lack of community.
Absolutely. And there are so many misconceptions in society, so many reasons why people are afraid. Most bisexual people are not out. Like, that's a terrible statistic because it really says the majority of our community are too terrified of the hostility that they will face to tell anybody. It's awful. It's so awful. And a lot of those things that people say, like, oh, well, you're in a relationship, so why does it matter? It matters profoundly because there are young people growing up who experience bisexuality and they feel like there's something wrong with them. And they get depressed and they think they're broken. And there's so much, so much trauma and pain that can be totally avoided if they could see, oh, well, Uncle Mark is bi, Uncle Mark is like that, or, you know, my teacher at school, or, you know, some other role model on TV, or some celebrity or whatever has just said, oh, by the way, if you're like this, it's normal. And then you can just get on with your day. But we have this awful situation where so many people around the world are just forced to live in this awful trauma and pain, and it's just so avoidable and sad. So that's why I love to be vocal and visible. Yeah, I hope that it continues. I think the younger generation are becoming more comfortable
Yeah.
in it. So hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose in some ways it comes on to and connects with mental health. The second point, which you said, is we can be very vulnerable to mental health issues. And you said about how to heal.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's an impression that in some way being bisexual is easy. So I think people have the view that, oh, well, you're bi, so you can just get with a guy or get with a girl, or you could live in the straight world or the LGBT world, and like, isn't this best of both worlds? Like, why do we need to advocate for bi people? What's the difficulty? And I think people don't understand that bisexual people statistically have some of the highest rates of poor mental health. They have some of the highest rates of anxiety, depression, eating disorders, self-harm, suicide, all kinds of different things, higher than heterosexual people and higher than the gay and lesbian community as well. And I think a lot of people are surprised when they hear this because they think, well, why would that be? But you only have to look at the things that we just mentioned to realize that it can be incredibly difficult being bisexual because you you almost don't fit in the straight world. So you suffer a lot of that rejection that other LGBT people do. But then you also don't really feel part of the LGBT community as well, because they're like, oh, well, you're not really, you're not really part of this. And then not being able to be out, kind of not knowing whether you can express your identity or not. And then, of course, a lot of the confusion that goes along with it. There's no role models. You think that you're different, you're broken, you're something not right with you. A lot of people think that they're in denial. You say you're bi, and people go, "Sure, you're just in denial. You're really gay, but you can't admit it." Or sometimes, particularly with bi women, they'll say, "Oh, you're bi. Yeah, it just means that you kissed your best girl mate, when you were drunk, but you're really straight. You're not really." And so we go around and around and around in our heads, thinking, "Am I gay? Am I straight? Am I this? Am I that? Am I in denial?" It can get so locked in there and cause obsessive anxiety. I work with so many bi people who have so many intrusive thoughts going round and round and round. Who am I? What's going on with me? So it can be really dark, and people don't talk about it. So I just like to raise awareness of that because it's a huge thing in our community.
Yeah, I remember somebody saying about things are always more traumatizing when people are going through them alone. And I think that's the difficulty, isn't it? If there isn't a community necessarily, which community do you go to in that place? I think that's definitely a factor for people. There's that sense of loneliness and isolation, isn't there? Let alone the internal conflict, which is why, in some ways, even as you said, some sort of disorientation around what somebody's sexuality is. I think is probably more common amongst bi people, and which is why Robin Oakes's definition, although it talks very much about potential and it's very broad, isn't it? I do think it's quite helpful to have some sort of definition for people that people can connect to. If something's been disorientating, to have something which seems to make sense to a lot of people can be quite helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. When we go through things, particularly as young people, but not just, we have to know that our internal experience is understood and seen. Otherwise, it just gets stuck there, and we think that you know, it's not real or it's not valid or no one's going to understand us. And that goes for so much of mental health. We need to have our internal world validated. I mean, that's so much of what therapy is. It's being able to talk and be understood and be able to kind of put things together in your mind. And so bi people are on this kind of really extreme end of having a lived experience, which nobody tells you is allowed or normal or natural, and nobody seems to understand, and you don't see anyone to relate with you. And then, of course, you have homophobia and queerphobia all around you. So you have all these horrible messages about, it's wrong, it's not, all the rest of it. And so it's just, I can almost feel it in my body when I talk about it, because it's so real. You just get so in your own head, and it gets so internalized, and people can't be themselves. They can't live authentically. There's so much shame and guilt and denial and confusion. So yeah, it's really hard, really hard.
I wonder also, when I was talking to Robin, she mentioned something called perceived relationship threat. We'll talk about it when I speak to her, but that in some ways, bi people, if they say in a relationship that they are bi, that they may somehow it's seen as sort of threatening or problematic. I also noticed, and this is totally anecdotal, on my channel, I have about 5 videos, I think, which are about bisexuality, and then 50 which are about various other things. It's had more comments that would be negative or critical, or the worst thing we ever did was let bi people into the community. Somebody recently commented and said, I'm a straight man from Manchester and I think X, Y, and Z. And I think, why is a straight man from Manchester? Anyway, it's YouTube. You can watch whatever video you want. But again, that's very anecdotal. But I don't know whether also there's something about bi that can seem to threaten things, perhaps again, in a way that more sort of clearly same-sex attraction or gay doesn't.
There's just a wrong conception that being bi makes you less likely to be faithful in a monogamous relationship. It's wrong. There's just nothing more to say about it, but people widely believe it. They widely believe it. Not only straight people, but gay people as well. So you get the situation where a bi person is looking for love and connection, and you just hear people say out and out, oh, I'd never date a bi person. No, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. And that is just totally accepted as something to say. And you're like, okay. So, and then even if you are in a relationship, the other layer to it is that, okay, someone might say it's okay, but then when there's a problem in the relationship, they bring that up, that, oh, well, it's probably his fault because he's bi. Oh, it's probably your fault because, but it was so hard for that straight woman to be with that bi guy. The breakdown of their relationship was probably because of him. And then woe betide you if you're a bi person in a relationship with someone of one gender that breaks down. And then you go and have a relationship with someone of another gender that wasn't the gender of your original partner. Because if you do that, then that definitely means that you were the original problem in your relationship. And it is so dangerous and opens us up to abuse. There's shocking statistics about bi people and domestic abuse, domestic violence. And you would think, well, why would a bi person be vulnerable to abuse? Well, it's because we're not trusted. There's all these tropes about us. We find ourselves kind of taking crumbs and feeling grateful to our partners for accepting us. Trans people, asexual people, anyone with a less represented identity will be vulnerable to all kinds of mistreatment and abuse. And it's just all based on nonsense. Oh, it makes me sad. But yeah, it's true.
You work with a lot of people that you were talking about that come to you. You said about anxiety, depression. I know you wouldn't specifically talk about any clients, but generally reducing anxiety and depression. What are the kind of things that you think has been helpful?
So I think the first thing is being able to talk to someone, talking and being validated, as we said, having your internal experience just seen and heard can be so powerful. So whether that's with a therapist or coach or counselor who really gets it, because some don't. So, finding someone who is right can be really healing. The second thing is, if you can, finding spaces where you can connect with other people who are similar to you, groups or online groups, stuff like that. It's what I kind of try to provide with Not Defining. You can get one-on-one coaching, but you can also come to group sessions on Patreon. You can also, like we said, in comments on YouTube videos, even, just kind of trying to find a community where you can meet people and share experiences can just be so healing.
The last thing on mental health, it hasn't been mentioned now. And when I was reading that book called Bi, she didn't mention it in the whole book, which was addictions, or the extent to which somebody might act out a split off sexual part of themselves. I'm addicted to it. So whether that could be cruising, it just interested me that that was not mentioned at all in the book in terms of the kind of mental health issues that might be faced by people with a bisexual identity. It's an interesting one, depression, anxiety, but also I think, I mean, it could be sex addiction, it could be drugs, alcohol, yeah, all kinds of things. I just wanted to mention that because I don't hear it mentioned much.
Yeah, I think it's Dr. Julia Shaw, that book, which was a really good one for anyone who wants to kind of get a real basic understanding of bisexuality. It's got lots of good research in there and facts and stuff. It's really good. I deal a lot with people who have what they would describe as addictive behaviors and things. And I think any time where you have something that is repressed, the body wants to create an outlet for it. And so we want to have our needs met in a kind of balanced way that we're in control of. But if we have certain needs or certain parts of us that are kind of shut off completely in an extreme way, then the body really wants to go get it in a very extreme way that maybe we don't feel in control of. And so, sexual practices that we don't really want to be doing, but we feel compelled to. There's a lot to this, I know, but a lot of people feel that they're addicted to pornography, or they're using it in a way that they don't feel in control of. And so, yeah, it's just a symptom, isn't it, of people not being able to ask for their needs and have them met in a safe and healthy way.
Thank you for that. Just going on to the third one, which is it often changes and shifts.
Yeah, so I wrote a whole book on it, but a lot of people don't understand that bisexuality is fluid, whereas it's often changing. I mean, there are some bisexual people who they kind of have their attractions to different genders and it doesn't change, but a lot of people, it does change, and it can change kind of every day, almost like it's always constantly chopping and changing. Or it could change kind of once in a while. You might have like a period of time where you're kind of more into guys, and then you kind of merge and you're like, oh, there was this thing, women or feminine people or non-binary people or whatever constellation it might be. And you might kind of flip between different genders, and like each time it flips, you lose your feelings for the one you were thinking about before. Or sometimes it might be like everyone, almost like pansexual. You just kind of feel attraction to any gender, regardless of, you don't really see gender. And then sometimes it may come about that you have a period of like asexuality where you kind of flow and shift, and it doesn't really coalesce into like one person that you'd be attracted to, and it's almost like aspects of people that you find maybe a bit attractive but not really. And so I've gone through all of those in my life, and I'm very fluid, and it's nothing to be worried about. I think people really worry, and when they have a fluid episode, then they go, what does this mean? Oh, this means I'm gay, so I'm into guys now. Oh, well, that's me, I've always been gay. And then it flips, you know, oh, well, maybe I'm straight. Fluidity happens, it's normal, and it's a fundamental part of being bi. So, yeah.
And I suppose human beings quite like often to make meaning of things, don't we? And to make definitions. On that
We
subject,
love it.
I was talking about, mentioned Robin and her definition. Do you have a definition of bisexuality that you are comfortable with, or is that not something you really think about, or think in those terms?
I do, and I use Robin Oates's definition because I think it's perfect. So, yeah.
And she does talk about potential and not necessarily in the same way. So again, that fluidity, I think it's captured in her definition, isn't it, to a degree?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, if I remember correctly, it's attraction to one or more genders, not necessarily in the same way, not necessarily at the same time, and not necessarily to the same degree. It can be fluid, changing, different degrees, different times.
The next one is there are many different types of bi plus. Now, bi plus, again, it's another term that I've heard. What do you mean by bi plus?
So the plus is just something that we use in the LGBT community to kind of show that there's more to it. So um, bi is the most commonly understood word to mean somebody who has attraction to different genders, but you also have pansexual, you also have multisexual, you also have fluid, you also have maybe bi-curious, heteroflexible. There's all kinds of different words that we use under the kind of multi-orientation spectrum. And so when we say bi plus, we just mean bi people plus all the other multisexual people. But bi basically can mean so many different things to so many people. It's such a diverse group of people, and no two bi people are exactly the same. You might have someone who is 50-50, really into guys, really into girls, and they're bisexual. You might have somebody who is like 90% into men and masculine people, but they've got like maybe like a 10% something there for women or something feminine. There might be people who are more into femininity in general. We might call this sapphic sometimes, you know, feminine women, but also feminine guys or feminine non-binary people. And then there's also people who have different levels of romantic and sexual attraction. So they might be sexually attracted to the same gender and romantically attracted, but they may experience some romantic but not sexual attraction to like a different gender. So and vice versa, and there's all different kinds of things. So basically, whatever constellation you are is completely valid under the bi spectrum. Nobody is more bi than anybody else, and you don't have to have acted on it. You could just have a fantasy, but not really want a relationship or whatever. It doesn't matter. It is open to all who want to use the term.
Fantastic. So the fifth one is we are absolutely queer enough. What did you mean by that?
Um, well, yes, my T-shirt proudly makes that point.
I won't ask you what the AF means or it's all edit.
I think that it's really important for bi people to know that they are welcome in the LGBT community, because we get rejection from the hetero community, but we often do experience rejection from the kind of gay and lesbian community as well. And the idea is that we're kind of gay light, you know, we kind of got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Or people say that we have, you know, so-called straight passing privilege. And this can be really difficult because, of course, we are completely LGBT. We are completely queer, if that's something that you use. And bi people have been there from the very beginning. I like to remind people that the first ever Pride March was organized by a bisexual woman, Brenda Howard. Some of the founding people in the Pride, the Stonewall uprisings, were people like Sylvia Rivera, who was bisexual. People often refer to her trans identity, but they forget that she was bi, and all of these things. Bi people have been there from the beginning, and we have always been there, and we deserve to be respected in the gay and lesbian community. So for anybody who feels that, they're not accepted, I just want to give out a message that you absolutely are, and you should never have to put up with any kind of nonsense like that.
I mean, all the way through, thanks for that, Mark. All the way through, you've been talking about community and various forms of it. I do get people asking quite a lot, creator communities on YouTube. From your point of view, what would you suggest as far as communities? I know you have your own on Patreon. We'll put details for that below the video. But others, are there others that you know of?
Yeah, I think that a really good idea is to actually go on websites like meetup.com. They will often have bisexual groups in your area, and that can be a really, really nice thing. There's also something called the Bi Resource Center, which is a great organization that has a lot of resources, a lot of like books, information. They have a list of loads of groups as well, online and offline groups. So the Bisexual Resource Center. And then there are loads of different ones, kind of depending on where you are. In different cities have big ones. There's also in the UK, Bi Pride UK, and Bi Con UK, which are big kind of conventions, which allow bi people to come together, and there are kind of equivalents to different countries. But yeah, those are some of the ones that I would suggest. And then if you want to go on YouTube or social media, I would really just recommend searching for bisexual creators and just see what comes up, because there are loads of people who are talking about different things. Obviously, you and me make the best content, so who needs, anything else? But there are loads of other great people.
Your discussion, your conversation with Rob Cohen on Two By Guys, that podcast that was up.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Coincidentally, he's coming on as well in a few weeks, hopefully. So that will be lovely. But he has a great podcast, doesn't he, too? I think it's just a podcast. I don't think he's on YouTube.
Yes. Yes. Two Bi Guys is a fantastic podcast. You've got all of the great bi people on your channels. It's great. It's the great and the good. It's
Right.
funny because we're quite a small community, so we all just know each other. There's about 5 of us. But yeah, podcasts are really good. And there's also a UK one called Bisexual Brunch, which is absolutely fantastic. And I would definitely recommend that. I've been on it a couple of times, and it was really fun. So yeah.
Look, just to finish off, could I just ask two things? One of them is a bit of advice you would give to people, perhaps in earlier stages of looking at their bi identity or experiencing it. And the other thing that I always ask, Mark, which I hope you don't mind because I didn't put it on the list of things, but is a piece of life advice.
I would say, first of all, you are not alone. Like we said before, there are so many people out there. And most of the people who are like you will not tell you. So if you can have the courage to express yourself, then so many people will come out of the woodwork. So many people will be there to support you. If you don't have people around you in your community, we have the internet. There are so many people here to support you. Come to Not Defining, get in touch with me, and hopefully, we can connect you, and you can use that as almost like an incubator to then go out into the world. I would also say, when you are speaking to people, don't try and convince them that you are valid. Don't try and convince them to accept you. Accept yourself, state who you are with pride, and leave it. Because once you shine in your own self-confidence, and you show people that you don't need their approval, then the right people will shift their way out of your life, and the right people will want to be there, and it will just become easy. So that leads me perfectly onto my kind of life mantra or what have you, which is be yourself as much as you possibly can. And the way that I do that is to every single day check in with what my body is asking for. So that could start small. Do I want to rest today? Am I hungry? Do I want to go to that social thing, or am I really not wanting to go? Do I like being around these people, or do I not? And we can't always give our body what it's asking for because we have lives and restrictions and everything. But having that connection with your authentic inner voice and trying to at least give it what you can will then hopefully build and build and build to the point where you trust yourself and you can advocate for yourself in any situation. You realize that you're strong and you don't need other people to give you approval. So look after yourself, have a relationship with yourself, and never let anybody tell you that who you authentically are inside is not valid, because it is the best way you can be always.
Fantastic advice. Thank you. Just amazing. I'd agree with it wholeheartedly. Thank you so much for all of it. Generally, Mark, it's been amazing. I will put links to everything below, including your wonderful book. I must read your wonderful book.
So it's nice that it's now out. It's called Fluid. You can find it, Fluid by Mark Cusack, anywhere where books are sold, online. You can order it, and yeah, it's a joy. So I'm excited to share it with you all.
Fantastic. So good luck with that and everything else that you're doing as well. And as I said, thanks again. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been amazing, and I'm sure all of the viewers will agree. Thanks again. You take care.
Thank you so much, and thank you for representing our community and having us on and giving this platform. It's really, really so important. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.